I hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Colin. I'm here back again with Launchpad School. Rick, as always, is ready to learn. Are you ready? Born ready.
I am ready.
All right, awesome. If you guys don't know Rick joined us already a while ago and is a Launchpad fanatic. Obviously, going into the details, it's not always as easy. So that's why I'm here to highlight things that are happening in the market right now that affect Launchpads and everything that we need to know in the real details. So I'm going to share my screen. I have CoinMarketCap open, and we're going to pick up some Launchpads because there are definitely a lot of interesting things happening. Hello, everybody waving to me in the chat. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to go to categories, and then I like to use this search function and then go for Launchpad, not the Binance Launchpad, not the community test Launchpad. We want the Launchpads overall. So you can basically see because of the pump, right, on Ethereum and Bitcoin, we are having 56 green projects and 30 red projects in the last 24 hours, which is 65% green. So that should be a good indicator when we open it up. And you can see more green than red, which is always a good indicator, right? However, let's start today with a relative comparison. So on the relative comparison, you can see Bitcoin went up 13% the last 7 days, 2% the last 24 hours, and the last hour, 1%, 1.5%. But Ethereum went up 44%, right? Very significant there. Ethereum doesn't lead the market, Bitcoin does, and we can see that on the Bitcoin dominance, right? 41.4%, and ETH dominance is only 18%. So that's the relative market cap of these projects relative to the entire market. Well, we're talking here about $429 billion. And the biggest Launchpad is only 105 million. So it's definitely less significant, right? The total Launchpad market cap is 423 million, but you can definitely see that over the last 7 days, there has been a slight upward trend, right? The tokens already being traded less, however, 7% less, 37 million tradable volume. Interesting to note, because obviously Launchpads perform really well in a bull market when the market is up, and Launchpads tend to perform less well when there's less relevant launches in, for example, a bear market, right? So let me pick up a Launchpad, which is not on this list, because I want to show you a real life example, which is the best learning cases, right? So here we go. This is the Firestarter Launchpad. Obviously, look at the trajectory where they came from, $3, and look at where they are right now.
It's always the same.
Max pain, right? They think everybody can agree. But it's an interesting Launchpad, not going to lie. I really like the American company that's behind it. However, they are struggling as any other Launchpad would be in the current sentiment, right? So let's pick up the last 7 days. What has happened? You can see some quite big spikes where people buy tokens, right? And then some crashes again. But something has happened, right? Because you can see that there was some accumulation on the token. So let's pick up the last 14 days. There were some spikes, right? Which means like increased traction, because you wouldn't push it up 25%, right? With no reason, which is very interesting to see, because in the last period, there was a huge run up, yes, yesterday, and then it basically crashed again. So the pattern is that although it looks like there was a rally here, right, upwards, so this is basically 3.2 to almost 4, that is like 25%, right? Quite significant if we're talking about large sums of money. 25% is a good gain, but it wasn't maintained, and even then thereafter declined again. Not until the previous low, but we're very close, right? This is 0.35, this was 3.9, and this is 3.2, so again in the middle. So what happened actually they were supposed to launch the Amazing IDO, right? So if we go to Twitter, of course, our favorite medium, right? You spend all your day on Twitter looking at like these girls that that tweet about crypto.
Yeah.
Let me see. So they were supposed to host this one, Amazing, right? I haven't read upon it like in detail, but what ended up happening is, look, they've promoted them for a long time, right? Amazing. Because they, of course, in the bear market, you don't have that many projects. So they were talking about Amazing for quite a while. It's like a move to earn project, right? And then what happened is they were supposed to launch, I think the 15th or something. And then they had an argument or something, and they didn't fulfill the agreement, so they weren't going to list them, right? But the interesting part is that DAOmaker, they made the announcement that DAOmaker is listing them, right? So Firestarter is no longer listing them. And what happens is, of course, people were accumulating tokens, right, to participate in that IDO. I don't know when it was supposed to happen, but as soon as there, or maybe that these spikes, right? And as soon as the news came out, people dumped the token.
Right.
Because ultimately, if I would ask you, what is the utility for Launchpad tokens?
Participating in the IDOs.
And what happens if there's no IDOs?
Yeah, you dump your tokens. It's going down
These tokens
anyways.
are useless.
Right.
Right. Specifically, if you need to stake them, they continuously lose value. And then what you get is you get FUD, right? So people saying like, what are they saying? Rock garbage going to zero. This guy is mad. And his name is Pumpy Bags. This is even June 9th. So there isn't that many updates, right? Scam is so rude. I don't know what he said, but I know, you know, there's different sentiments definitely there, you know. But definitely not a good thing when we look at like how these navigate. When we look at a token, so this is a fully diluted market cap of 3.5 million, right? Tradable volume 400K because it's on KuCoin. So yeah, all of the volume comes from KuCoin, right? Almost all, 92%, 91%. So when we go back and we select DAOmaker, just for reference purposes, they have 1.6 million tradable volume. They have a 462 million fully diluted market cap. So they are more than 120 times as big, right? And when we look at the last 7 days, and specifically the pool, it basically moves with the market, which is really important to note, right? So once we push this chart to this chart, they look quite similar, right?
That's right.
But if we take the Firestarter chart, it doesn't look similar at all. Why not?
Obviously, Firestarter is much smaller than DAOmaker, so I suppose liquidity will obviously have a role to play. But for the rest, I wouldn't have a very clear answer apart from lower liquidity on that one. No.
Okay, so it's about the volume and the diluted market cap, because it's indeed about the size of the project. Ultimately, when there's more tradable volume behind it, right? And in this case, that is still a big portion KuCoin, but also Gate taking quite responsibility, and like OKX, but there's also a lot of them not included, right? It's like double start. They don't take that into consideration because they couldn't verify it, but there's a good spread of like 100 to 200K. Here is like 107K, 172K, sorry. There's not like one exchange pulling in 1 million, right? So there's quite a big spread. Also, they're all on the major exchanges, so they will have some trading relative to the market. So one thing that you can do is basically look at the volume. So the volume here was 2 million, right? 2 million. And then the only difference here is that it's 5 million, right? When we look at the rest of the day, it's usually around 2 million, 1.8 million, 2 million, right? That's the average. So only this was like a huge move here. So that's 7-8. And what happened on 7-8? Am I using, so I'm here on the monthly. So there was a 7-9. There's like, there was like a huge rally up, right? So the volume here also increased from 24 billion to 30 billion. So that pattern is the same, right? So in this case, the projects that launch on Downmaker have relatively less influence on the price because of the high market cap and the token that has been established according to the tradable volume, amount of holders, value, positioning in the market. That means that this is a project that is likely going to move with the pattern of Bitcoin instead of moving against the direct performance, which this token is doing, because it just has a lot less holders, right? If we could go to Polygon Explorer, take the contract address. Okay, token tracker, Flame, holders, 2,428. And then
a bit of a difference there.
Downmaker, holders, 15,000.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So that's 6 times as much, right?
Right.
Are they have 2 chains? No, no 2 chains, just 1. But yeah, that's quite a significant difference. I would expect it to be bigger, to be fair. I would have expected it to be bigger, but it's not. But it's still a significant difference, you know. The amount of transfers, 341,000, 144,000. So people are moving a lot of the Flame token, and they aren't moving as much of the Downmaker token, right? Because they have 7 times as much holders, but a lot less transfers, right?
Right.
And these analytics are interesting once you look at like staking has ended, transfers. But basically, in the last hour, there were like only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 transactions. And here in the last hour, there were a lot of execution tasks, but there were at least more. There was more action on the chain for this token, right? The quantities, 5,000, 2,000, 16,000, 16,000, 53. So there's a lot of they're all under $100 transactions, right? And these are like all, well, most of them above $5,000 transactions. Interesting, right? Just observation. They could trade less, but they're not trading less. They're trading larger amounts or moving larger amounts. So all these things, you could even go down the blockchain rabbit hole, you know, like explore all of these things and find that there's a tremendous amount of things that influence these tokens, where I always say, you know, with these launchpads, the top 3, basically at this moment, only Downmaker, I think. I don't think Polka Starter has enough. 60 million still a good justification, and 41 million is still high, but I wouldn't go outside the top 3. And even Seedify, I don't think it moves perfectly in the market pattern. Well, in this case, it does, right? Relatively on the pump. And this is basically where the opportunity lies when it comes to the tokens and the bear market, right? If you would transition out of the bear market, then you know that these 3 primary tokens move because of their market cap and tradable volume, very similar to the Bitcoin pattern. Then they carry less significant risk, right? As long as Bitcoin performs, right?
Right.
But they will also not have like the huge pumps, because only the small market cap coins, you know, under 5 million, have the significant gains of like 26% in one day. You know, if you look at the last 7 days, less than 5 million, peak DeFi market cap of 22 million. I don't know if that's, yeah, but they almost have all of their tokens in circulation. And it's basically pumping because probably a new listing or something, you see, like it went up 66%, but almost from nothing to something,
right?
Yeah. It's not that considerable, but at least it did do it. So we're not going to neglect it. But 600K, 2.6 mil, 500K, 1 mil, 1 mil, 1.8 mil, 2 mil. So you can see that they're all really low, right? The tradable volumes are also really low. And because of that, as you mentioned before, tradable volume, market cap, liquidity, volatility, right? That's what you get. They can go up really hard, but they can also go down really hard, right? Phantom Pad is right here, minus 11%, while everything else is pumping. I don't know what Daisy launch exactly is, but it looks like a rug. If you look at the chart, right? What's happening right there? And I think if we would consider that for a second, you know, the value of these launch pads, right, is in the launches, launch pad, ultimately in the launches. And then the question would be, if you would have to participate or in the next bull run, let's say, it would be quite difficult to determine when that is, that next bull opportunity. But what would be the strategy that one could use to basically partake into the next bull run on Launchpads? Because I truly believe that there will be another moment in time where anything that is launched through a Launchpad will do 100x or 10x, let's say 10x, right? Because as soon as the adoption or like retail investors come back, they throw money at everything, and Launchpad is one of the biggest marketing engines, right? So it would be nice to be there and basically use them as exit liquidity, ultimately, right? Because somebody needs to buy the tokens. Why not them while I dump my bag because I've already bought into these Launchpads? What would be a good strategy to utilize here while the market is bearish?
Right. So when the market is bearish, I feel like it depends. So going with DAO Maker right now, of course, like you said, it follows the trend of Bitcoin. And if that trend is going down, then I'm not sure if DAO Maker would be such a good option then. Then again, these smaller launchpads, as you said, they're not as dependent on the bigger coins. So I feel like if you find a good small launchpad that you actually feel like is going to do a good job, but isn't very large, or it doesn't follow the same trend as Bitcoin as much, I feel like that might be a good opportunity. Yeah.
So why would that offer a better opportunity?
Well, like you said, they can more so have their own pattern. So as Phantom Pad is dropping down, even though the rest of the market is going up, they can also do the opposite theoretically. When you have Bitcoin going up, going down, you can have that smaller launchpad also theoretically going up, even though Bitcoin is going down.
And what would be my benefit of it going up right now if I want to invest in the bull market, which is maybe 6 months from now?
Right. Well, then if that's the question, then I misunderstood it. Then obviously going to the bigger launchpads would be the better way to go, as you anticipate that they will continue to flow with Bitcoin. And if you're anticipating for a bull run, Bitcoin is going to go up. DAO Maker is the place to go.
And why? So ultimately, what does it come down to when making your choice on which launchpad? What is the one variable that we would look at? Because we specifically choose DAO Maker because it moves in line with Bitcoin, right? This is what we have showed before. But what does that actually mean for us as like investors?
It means that in a bear market, you can kind of expect the trend to be going down. So I feel like if you are bullish for the future, let's say in a couple months from now, getting your tokens now when it's cheap on, let's say, a bigger launchpad like Seedify or DAO Maker that more so follow that trend, it could be the best way to go, perhaps. But again, right now it's bearish, so smaller launchpads might be better. I feel like that would be the best explanation there. But again, I'm not sure.
When you say cheap, what does that mean?
The price of the launchpad is low because all the prices go down. If you look at the chart of the launchpads, you always see like 1 year ago it's like over here, and then right now it's at nothing basically.
Okay, let's do an example, because I'm going to teach you my favorite word.
Okay, I'm scared.
Ever. No, you shouldn't be scared. It's great, because then it is good if you try to explain something. You always need to use a specific word, and I'm going to teach you that today. So. And that's why we're here, ultimately. Let's pick up Seedify. 170, right? Is that cheap or is that expensive?
I feel like right now that's quite expensive, yes.
170 is expensive. What if I have $100? Is 170 expensive if I want to buy one?
I know what you mean. It's not expensive.
But what if I have only $1?
Yeah, then you can't afford it. It's expensive.
Yes. So can something be cheap or expensive without knowing something else?
No.
So it's not only circumstantial. The key word here is that I always use when I explain things, but also in my default language, it's relative, right? It's relatively expensive right now because it was $1, or one week ago it was $1, 130, and right now it's 170. So compared to this, it's relatively expensive, but it's cheap, relatively cheap compared to 3 months ago.
Right.
And then for somebody who has less money, relatively less money, because we also, what does less money mean? You know, I have $100, that's little amount of money, looking at somebody who has $100,000, right? But somebody with $100 somewhere else might be really rich. So the relative term is very important when making that example, because your argument is really good. You know, we would have relatively less risk choosing one of the 3 bigger launchpads because they follow the Bitcoin pattern. So we de-risk our situation, and that's always a good thing. And right now we can get in relatively cheap compared to before. Now the question is, why wouldn't I wait for the price to go down?
Why not? Waiting for the price to go down.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good plan to me.
So when do I know when the price is at the bottom?
Yeah, I feel like that's the eternal. I mean, if you know that, then money will be infinite, right? So I don't think there's a real way to find out exactly when the bottom is the bottom.
I have a way to find out what's the bottom.
Well, if you shared with me,
I think I can call the
happy
bottom 100% correctly every single time.
Okay, yeah, enlighten me.
But I think you can too. I think we all can do this.
Well, 0, if that's what you're going to say.
No, that's not what I'm going to say. In any specific time frame, whether you want it on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, I can call for any coin the perfect bottom. And you can too. But I can only do it one day after it happened.
Yeah.
So we can never call the bottom in that moment, right? But I can see the bottom after it has occurred, and that beats the purpose of calling the bottom, right?
Fair enough.
So everybody wants to call the bottom and participate there, but it's likely to never happen unless you call the bottom after it has occurred, which beats the purpose of calling the bottom, right? You can still use that as a point, but then you have like the bull trap that we have right now. That's why it's called the bull trap, right? It pumps. Ethereum goes from 1,000 to 1,500, but there are macroeconomic factors at play that likely it will go down. So I shorted the bitch, right? But that's like a day trade thing. That's different. Launchpads, we're focused. The question is, what would ultimately be the strategy that you guarantee that you got in at the lowest price?
Wow. Lowest price guarantee. I wouldn't be 100% sure, really.
Let's play again.
Is there like a, yeah, to do it again, for sure.
If I would be able to let you spread the risk, right? So you can pick number 1 to 10, but you can pick 2 numbers. And the closest you are, the better to my number that I have in my head. So you can choose 2 numbers from 1 to 10. And the closer you are to my answer, the better. Which numbers do you pick? You can also pick 1 number, but I want to make it more complicated.
Right. I think 4 and 6. Yeah. 4
and 6. That's interesting.
Unless that's a really well, maybe. Okay, wait. Let me think again. Could also be 3 and 7. Now that I think about it again.
3 and 7.
Yeah,
So somebody is saying 3.3 and 6.6.
something like that. It's very advanced math.
Well,
No, just
it
kidding,
is
that
the
not.
analogy that you should use. So you were at least using your mind the right way. Yes. So of course we need to use a weighted average, right? So you would add the numbers and then divide them. So ultimately your number would be 5.5, right? Because you go from 1 to 10 and not 0 to 10, right? Which is important. So if you are at 5.5, you have the same risk up as the same risk down. So ultimately you have, as Oscar said, 3.3, 6.6. It's basically in the middle. So you have the same length here as you have here, as you have here. So it doesn't matter that you might not be as close. That was not the assignment. The assignment was spread the risk perfectly. So you are as close as you can be. So if you have 1 to 10, and Oscar says, take 3.3 and take 6.6 to spread the risk 33.3% on 1, 2, 3, right? That's your 3 brackets. How would you apply this to buying Launchpad tokens?
Right. Well, in that case, you put the bottom at 3.3 and the top at 6.6. So you buy it at
Okay, let's
3.3 in that case, and you would sell
let's
at
take a
6.6.
real example. Oh, we're going to buy Seedify, not Superfarm, Seedify.
Super farm.
Seedify, and we're going to purchase over the last 7 days. Over the last 7 days. And of course, we cannot look into the future. So the period starts here. We have 7 days. So after 2 days, we would make a purchase, right? So on the 14th, we purchase at $1.40. Then 2 days later, we make another purchase at $1.47. And 2 days later, we make a purchase at $1.65. So that's 4, 5, is that correct? No. 4, no. Wait, 3, 4.5. Yeah, that's 4.5. So our average is about 1.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average. So what is that strategy called? It's a very basic investment strategy.
Yeah, I was aware of this strategy. I'm not sure of the name actually. No.
Can you see the chat? It's written like this.
Yes.
If you can see
TCA.
it. Yeah, but what does that mean? So the A is for average. Like I already said.
D. I feel like Dex would be too easy.
It's not Dick.
It went through my mind for a second. No.
I know.
C. Something with calculating maybe. Dex calculating estimate.
No, the A is average. I already told you.
Oh, right.
An estimate is
I
with an
would
E, not an A.
Oh, wait. I see Oscar saying dollar calculated average.
Close. It's not
Would
correct.
make sense. It's not
Yes,
correct.
but if you spend money, what is that?
Consume. Guys, come on. I need one more letter.
Yeah, give him one more letter. See what he gets.
Cost. Nah.
Cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cost makes a lot of sense.
Dollar,
Hindsight.
cost, average.
As
Makes sense
average,
when you say it.
right?
Right. And then basically what happens is you dollar cost average when you buy in. So you have an average buy-in. Could be 3 transactions in our example, could be 100 transactions. Depends on how much money you have, in which quantities you buy, over which amount of time. But you dollar cost average into a project, and ideally in a bull run, you dollar cost average out of a project. So you're not selling the top, but you're also not selling the bottom, you're selling in between. And then basically, if I would show you on a chart what it looks like, you basically buy here, and then you stop buying likely around here, right? So you bought this part. So your average, so you bought maybe, $100,000 worth of Seedify for an average price of $3.9, right? And then you start selling here all the way to here because it goes quite a bit quicker because you have larger amounts. And then you sell for an average price of $11.60. So you don't sell the top, right? You sell for an average price of $11.60. But that way, you never have the issue that you sell too soon or you sell too late with any crazy black swan event, right? Which would ruin the situation, something that is not inside the normal pattern. So with a dollar cost average approach, you always have an average over time, and that's how a index performs, right? An index doesn't have huge volatile changes over the long term, only over the short term. So as long as your dollar cost average is good, then you just follow the sentiment of the market. The sentiment right now is bearish, and there will be a reversal, which you don't see if you look at a 3-day chart or a 1-day chart. And I don't want to do charting in this video, right? We're not about that. But right now, if I ask you, is the market going up or down?
It's going up, relatively.
Well, on a 7-day chart?
Yes.
On a 1-month chart?
Yes.
But is it really?
Nah.
But we can only see it once we zoom out where we are in the cycle, right? In the process, which is extremely interesting, because otherwise we wouldn't see it. So again, relative, like you said, it's one little mosquito, one point compared to another point. And in these charts, you would say like, oh, we're in a bull run, right? It's going amazing. We're just up, up, up. But then when we zoom out where we came from and where we're going, specifically this chart is perfect, I think, that is not the case, right? And therefore, these strategies are extremely important, specifically, and that's what I want to stress, specifically when it comes down to Launchpads, because they appreciate fast and they also depreciate fast. So they gain value very fast and they lose their value very fast, because it's directly related to the incubation of projects, the launching and the performance of those projects, which of course raises the ultimate question: when would be the right time to buy into Launchpads? Because a dollar cost average strategy might be nice, but if you dollar cost average CDFI starting at $16, you still got wrecked.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I feel like perfect would be to buy it again when the price is very low, just so that you have a high tier for when the market does get up again. But like you said, it's difficult to find out when exactly the market will go up again. And yeah,
And when you say very low, what does that mean?
Okay, very low, I would say, compared to the last bull run peak.
And because that's, now you're making it difficult, which is good, right? So it was high and now it's very low. So should we buy right now?
Could be. I don't want to give financial advice, but yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's low compared to its former heights.
Yes, but what is why will it not go lower? Or maybe it will, right? That's the ultimate thing. So there's no argument except the argument it already went down a lot, which means can it not go lower? And the problem is it went down a lot numeric value, but percentage wise, it still can go down another 99%, right? Because for this to go down 99%, it would only have to go to, well, not a unrealistic lower amount.
Makes sense.
So although it went down, not 99% in this case, but some tokens have gone down 99%, you can still go down another 99%. Oscar is saying, with a look on Bitcoin, how it moves, maybe lower lows. Maybe. Do you agree? It's like trading terminology. We don't really use that often. What would be a normal, simple-minded approach to be able to start your dollar cost average strategy? Because ultimately, at some point, you have to make a move.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And you want to buy the lowest low, right? You want to buy the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But you also know that you'll never catch the bottom.
Pretty much. Yeah. So that leaves us with DCA, I suppose.
What does that mean? Well, what does it mean in terms for like you?
It means that you start spreading, and I feel like you can just start spreading, and yeah, but when exactly to pinpoint when you want to start spreading? That feels like such a difficult thing to do. Can you
Yeah,
do
that's
that?
why I'm
Okay, let me
asking
ask you this.
you.
Right, no, I will not give you a good answer, but can you do this without gambling? Because
Yes,
this is for sure. Yes, you can actually calculate this.
yes. Well, it's an insight, of course, and
Right?
that's why I'm asking you, because we're discussing the fundamentals. And this is one of the
Mhm.
fundamental things. So we know by now we have to use the dollar cost average entry and exit ultimately. We also know that we cannot call the bottom, right? So if you would make an entry before the bottom is in, you expose yourself to risk, more risk, right? Because it could go lower. But when do we know that it cannot go lower? That's the question.
Resistance. Maybe there
What does
might
that
be
mean?
certain. Yeah.
That's
As
something you heard and maybe don't know what it means.
well, I don't think I will be able to fully explain it, but I do know that there are certain resistant barriers in the price. And oftentimes when it reaches one of those barriers, you heard probably like Ethereum, like 1700 is a barrier, right? So I feel like if you know the barriers, you could maybe gamble on starting to spread when it
But
reaches
we
such
don't
a
want to
bottom.
gamble. That's the thing. And it's also not
Yeah.
about trading. So it's not actually a trading thing. It has to be, it's all about using your brain. So the problem is we can't call the bottom, but we want to make a low entry. But we do not want to take the risk of making an entry too early and it plummeting more. So what would then be the option?
See what they're saying in the chat.
He's explaining resistance in the chat. Thanks, Oscar. That's good. Thank you.
I would actually have to say I don't know the answer. I do not know the answer to that now.
Well, that's fine. That's why I'm here, right? The thing is, and it's quite simple. You make the entry once the market has reversed, which basically means that you've missed the bottom and you've missed the first spike, but you know it will not go lower, right? So per the example, and that's the best time to make an entry. Let's say here, it went from $16 to $6, right? Then it went back to $7, even $8, but it didn't go back to 10, right? So when we would say the market has reversed, for example, is if we look at the 3-month chart. So we could say Certify at the moment 170. Is it a good entry? It was before at $1, right? You could make an entry at $1. So it's already 70% up from that point. We missed that bottom. And we're going to miss it for a long while, because I could say it came from $16. The previous bull basically ignited at about $4 average, right? So I want CDFI to be $4 before we make the first dollar cost average entry, because at that point it is extremely unlikely that it would go up to $4 from $1 and then go down again, right? You can basically see that on the chart. From that point, it should basically either go horizontal or slowly and then up. So then you have de-risked the situation. But yeah, you lost at that point already 300% ROI. But we're willing to miss out on that because we don't want the risk of it going lower. Because the problem is the people that thought that they didn't want to lose out on 300% ROI, they bought here at $5.88. And they were right. They were happy. They had like another 30% return before losing 800%.
Right.
And then is that really worth it? The thing is, which obviously is quite difficult, patience. There's time and things require time, specifically because this is obviously a macroeconomic situation, you know, recessions all around the world. This is not a crypto thing only. It's influenced by major things. And I don't want to go into trading or markets, but specifically for these launch pads, is there has to be a sign of clear reversal. Otherwise, you're exposing yourself to too much risk. And that's fine, as long as you are willing to deal with that risk. You also can yield the potential opportunity. Because if you did buy at $1, right? And it will never go to $1 again. You had an amazing opportunity, right? But we would ideally accept that we don't want to carry as much risk, right? I would be willing to go down, let's say 50%, but I also exit at the 50% gain. I'm not going to hold tokens for 1000x, that's a gambling.
Right.
The whole strategy is different, I think if I would get into CDFI right now, so I bought in CDFI $3, which is fine because I know I'm not going to sell until $16, right? But if I would buy at $1, then my average buy-in is $2, right? If I would buy more, if I would want to. And don't buy just on dollar cost averaging your way down, right? Because that's also, if you don't want to buy more, then don't buy more. Ultimately, you just bought too early. But these things, they reverse, I don't want to say quite quickly, but the reversal will happen ultimately because economic markets, they need to grow. That's the foundation of capitalism, right? So the short-term pain, short-term losses are really interesting as long as you reflect on it. I mean, we're talking about this for 45 minutes right now. We only covered like 3 basic marketing principles, yet 99% of the people don't understand this because it's boring. But it's so important to make the right decision. Why do I choose this Launchpad or why do I choose the other Launchpad? How stable is the token? What's the tradable volume? What's the market cap? How many projects do they have? So apart, we haven't even talked about projects being launched on Launchpads. And this is lesson 4. We've only talked about the Launchpad token and all the problems and things you need to know about these tokens. So what I often see in these groups is like the Firestarter FUD that you've seen, right? Somebody just buys $1,000 worth of Firestarter token, have no clue what their tiers are, how it works. And then 2 weeks later, it's worth $60. What happened? Scam. That's why people say crypto is a scam. No, the thing is you just don't understand it. That's different.
Fair enough.
So yeah. Of course, if you don't understand it, you're going to call it a scam because in normal markets, the bank educates you, right? This is the bank account. This is your PIN number. This is how it works. Don't share it with anybody. They tell you these things. And in crypto, if you want to send your wallet address or your seed phrase to somebody, nobody's going to tell you no. Right? You need to learn, okay, seed phrase can steal all my shit, so don't do that, right? There's nobody tell you to do that. And the same thing with the Launchpad token is like, and that's why I think it's quite vulnerable, right? These YouTubers that create these pump content around tokens and stuff, specifically in the bull market, they, of course, make a lot of money because they expose a weak audience. They don't have that knowledge, right? But we're not in the bull market right now, and we're not hyped crypto YouTubers. We're boring crypto YouTubers, right? We focus on what really matters. But I think we have covered enough for today. It was quite intense. So what do we learn today? Dollar cost average. You can never buy the lowest low, right? You always miss it, but it's a good thing to miss it because the reversal is most likely the best time to make that entry. Right? We can always argue, it depends on a very specific situation. What is your risk tolerance? How much money you're playing with? All these things, right? To justify it. But for, let's say, 90% of the people that are not in it full time and dedicated to it is look at the 1-year chart and how long do you want to hold your tokens? Specifically, that Launchpad thrive in a bull and suffer the most in a bear. So yes, you have amazing opportunity right now, but also a significant amount of risk if these projects do not recover. For most crypto projects, that's not a problem, right? Games and stuff, these tokens went down and they will go up again when the games are ready and when there's better market conditions. But on some Launchpads, they have launched no projects in the bear, and the founders the team might found a different opportunity to occupy their time, which may be more fruitful, and then they ditch the project. Right? Because there's relatively little regulations. So a full list of things to take into consideration. Beyond Launchpads. Have you learned something today, Rick?
Every episode, for sure.
Your brain needs rejuvenation after this. It's very hot. It was quite
needs
intense.
Air conditioning.
you put the Coke bottle again.
Yeah.
Is that Coke with sugar? We don't drink Coke with sugar. We only drink Coke Zero.
Right. All right. It's about the gains here. Gotcha.
Yeah,
we'll do next time.
That's right. That's right. You have a what's it called? Fridge over there.
Yes.
I put the fridge on 7 out of 7, so mad cold. And then I put like 2 huge bottles of lemonade in there this morning. And then when I came back from my walk, I was so blessed to find them there. Really a relief, but this AC is treating me really well. It is only on 21 degrees, so I'm not putting it on 18. It might be a little bit too much, with all the heat around. But yeah, that's it for today. Anyway, thanks for the chat. I appreciate you. We'll be back next week with another Launchpad school. If you guys have any questions, feel free to push them in the comments down below, and we'll be sure to have a look. If you want to, hang out with us, ask questions, feel free to tag Rick in our Discord. Join the Digits Club through the link in the description down below. We'll be able to help you, chat with you, and discuss anything Launchpad related. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.